Respecting creativity, it's a catchphrase. Respecting copyright, encouraging creativity is the catchphrase that we use in the copyright industry all around the world. We've got the title page. I'm going to talk a bit about copyright. I did have a page that gave you an introduction, gave you a list of the things I was going to talk about. But as Susan said, I'm here to talk about copyright, encourage copyright compliance within the university, ensuring the integrity of learning and teaching when you use the copyright material of other people. So that is what I will be talking on. Copyright is there to balance the rights of the creators against the rights of the users. We are all users of copyright in one way or the other, and we'll go through what might be fair dealing. But I just want to talk about copyright in the first instance. So on the one hand, it gives rights to the creators to use their works, to earn money, to provide them with a living. And that's why it's important from their perspective, but it's important from our perspective that we have access to their works so that we can build on those works and create others. That's another important aspect about copyright that I will talk about, how we can build on the works of others, because we're continually talking about plagiarism in the university, but we need to have another perspective of how we can use creative works to develop our own. So it's there to provide that balance. It's there to stop infringing use. So how does it protect the rights of the creators against infringement? There can be criminal prosecutions, and I'm sure you're all aware of the criminal prosecutions against pirated DVDs within Fiji, and also I think there was in Lambasa a raid on the photocopying of textbooks for schools. So that those sort of things need to stop because those are depriving, that sort of use deprives the creators of a return for the sale of their goods, their works in the marketplace. And that little thing at the bottom there, that's all about how copyright is there to encourage creativity, to encourage the ongoing creation of other works. So what does copyright protect? It protects literary and dramatic works. It protects all written material, in fact. It protects music. It provides the ability, protection to communicate material, copyright works online. Protects music in any form, whether it's recorded, whether it's written. But the most important thing that copyright does in protecting these works, it protects original works that must be in some form of material format. So if they're still in your head, they're not protected. The university has a handbook on IP and copyright that indicates who owns copyright and material produced within the university by its employees. So you should all be aware of that and what the rules are. So the rights provided to the copyright owners, to the people that create movies, broadcast programs, literature, drama, dance, their rights are to copy their works and make them available for purchase in the marketplace. Their rights, that's the copy, to publish, in other words. They also have the right to license others to produce or copy or publish their works. So they might give the rights to publish in Fiji. They might give other rights for publication of their works in England. Different rights apply. So there's all sorts of rights that the creator needs to protect, protecting their rights to earn money from their works. They can give authority for someone to perform their works. They can give authority for someone to record them, to transmit them online, or to adapt them into and create other works using their work as a basis. So a story to a film play, an artistic work into a photograph, those sort of things are protected. We were talking last night about artistic works that copyright has expired, and people take photographs to continue protection. So Gates has the rights to photograph all the works in the Louvre, which are out of copyright, but he holds the right to photograph them, so only he can make money from those rights. So even though copyright might have expired, it can be tied up again, and that happens also with published works. A publisher has a right that lasts 25 years in the published typographical work that he has produced. After 25 years, if the literary work copyright has expired in that work, then he might republish, particularly if it's a popular work that people like to continue to buy. So there are ways of protecting your rights so that you can be remunerated for their use, their sale, or their copying. How does copyright encourage creativity? Well, it does that firstly by protecting those rights, as indicated in that previous slide. One of the most important things about copyright is that it doesn't protect the idea. Patents protect ideas, trademarks protect logos, which are artistic works, so logos could be protected under copyright works as well as an artistic work. So copyright only protects the way the creator expresses the idea. So information is free. Known facts are free, can be freely used in the development of new creative works. If you think about your students, you give them an idea, and they are asked to create an assignment, an essay, based on that idea. So you'll get 20, 50, 100 different creative works based on the same idea. Certainly plagiarism needs, students need to know about plagiarism, what it is. Plagiarism is when you cut and paste the expressive work of another and treat it as if it's your own. If you acknowledge that it's someone else's work, not a problem. And we can use that in the works we create, as long as we cite and reference the material we might be copying or referring to. So do remember that copyright does protect creativity in other ways by not protecting the idea, just the way it's expressed. We might express a story in a musical way. We might express it in dance. I think in dance it's very important to remember that how we protect dance, it has to be in written form, might be laid out in some sort of writing, or it normally will be protected because it will be filmed. But if you don't film dance or put it in some sort of material form, you've got no protection. So it's important to remember that. So we can take an artistic work, and it might mean a lot of different things to us. We might write an article about it. We might draw a painting of a photograph. So that in that way we can build on the works of others. We can create new work. We can stand on the shoulders of giants and create our own material. One of the things about copyright, when it sort of came into existence hundreds of years ago, it was to encourage creativity. In the 1700s, copyright didn't last for 50 or 70 years as it does now. It was kept to 16 years. And again, that was so people could use that material to create further works. And the same with patents. Patents are only protected for 20 years, and once that 20 years has gone by, the creator has had the time to make money out of his creation, and it is open for us to use that patent to create our own. So what is fair dealing? And so here we're talking about literary works, dramatic works, music, sound recordings, broadcast programs, film. What is fair? Incidental copying is fair. So if we are making a movie and there are artistic works on the wall and we're just taking a scan of what's on the wall, not a problem. But if we're doing that on purpose, we couldn't justify it as being incidental copying. So that's quite specific. As I said before, copying for criticism and review, we can all do that. In writing articles, academic papers, research papers, whatever. We all copy other people's material for criticism and review, but we must think criticism and review. Is that what we're doing? We had a situation in a university in New Zealand where there was some debate as to whether if a lecturer made multiple copies of an article and handed it out to the class and asked the class to provide a criticism or review of that article, surely that was fair dealing. So what we did there was an action between the Copyright Collective and a body of universities in New Zealand to establish what the law meant in that respect. And it was established that no, that would not be copying for criticism and review. Okay, so when we copy for criticism and review, we can copy probably in its insubstantial portion as long as we acknowledge the source. What is insubstantial? It actually the law doesn't actually say insubstantial. It doesn't put a parameter there. It doesn't say 10%. It doesn't say 100%. But I think usually we would look at the fair dealing provisions to ascertain whether we felt it was fair. And that would be how that copying affected the work in the marketplace, and sales of that work, and things like that. What would a court consider to be fair if we were copying for criticism and review and news reporting? We can all copy for research or private study. So what are the important aspects there? We are copying for ourselves as individuals. We are not copying for others. If we're doing a group research, we can't copy for everyone in that group. And I know that provides problems in research. Perhaps you can have a central resource where material is stored, because under law, copying includes storage. So if you have the ability to copy for research purposes, for your own research purposes, you can put it on your computer. Joe Bloggs and Jenny Smith can come and access that material on your computer. You cannot communicate it though. Okay? So perhaps though your colleagues in research could access from the same resource. When you copy from a library, the library has to be sure that you are copying for research and private study, your own. That you're not going to take that piece of material, that 10% from a book, that chapter, that article from a journal, and then make copies for your students or for your colleagues. So one copy only for the individual, no further copying. Okay, so at the moment, we don't operate under a licensing scenario in USP. We operate under the Fiji law. It's impossible for us to comply with all the laws through the South Pacific in which we operate. So, pending a licensing scheme that's made available to the university, I think it's quite fair to base our compliance guidelines on the Fiji Copyright Act. So you can, for your students, you can make a copy, you can make multiple copies of 10% or one chapter of a work, whichever is less. Normally it's whichever is more, but under the Fiji Act it's whichever is less. If there is an artistic work or diagram included in that work that you're copying, that's fine. And as compliance officer or copyright officer or whatever I am, I don't have a problem if that artistic work is copied in isolation of the text, as long as it has come from a text and would be within that 10% one chapter parameter. Okay, so that's fine. Photocopying is okay. As I said before, photocopying, copying under law includes storage. It doesn't include communication. Okay, so that's where we draw the line. You cannot communicate this material to your students. You can provide it to them as a photocopy. You can provide it to them on a CD-ROM, but you cannot provide it to them online. You cannot provide it to them through Moodle unless you have authority, and you obtain that authority through me before using that material in your course. You should all by now have received a copy of your copyright compliance guidelines. There's an even better version available on the quick links online. So you should all be aiming to comply with copyright. Infringement actions cost a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's very important to the university that we are copyright compliant. So also the other sad fact of the matter is that the Copyright Act does not allow you to make multiple copies of articles for students. So again, you've got to think beyond the square and think, well, how do we provide those to the students? How do we give them access? You provide them with a reading list, you provide them with a web link, or you send them to the library, or you get them to use the library databases. And certainly that is the way forward. The electronic databases that are available through the library is one way forward. If we had a copyright collective license, you would be able to do all that I've just said you can't do. But again, your limits would be the 10% one chapter, one article, maybe two from a journal. But yes, we could then provide it on Moodle. So if all things go to plan, you never know, we might have a license in a year or so. One of the things that the Vice-Chancellor is extremely interested in is the use of open educational resources. And of course, there are a lot of universities out there that are involved in the debate, and I know that a lot of you have been following the OER debate, which has been very interesting, but I can see it's just going round and round in circles. So, I mean, it's tricky. I mean, first, there's difficulty in deciding what OER you use. Is it appropriate for your course? But then on the other hand, if you want to develop OER, you've got to decide what are you happy to make available for free. So I am drafting a policy that the university can look at, but this is the way you start. You start, and this is what I can see is happening in the development of OER around the world. We start with Creative Commons. And where in the past I would have said, authors beware of Creative Commons. But surely in this world of education, you want to make the material freely available, but then you've got the problem that you also want it to be published by an appropriate publisher. So you tend to give your copyright away to those publishers. So it's a tricky question, tricky areas, but if you want to make it freely available so that other people can adapt it, copy it, make it available to others, then this is how you start. Now naturally, whatever I do, I want everyone to have for free. I want you to copy it. I want you to take it back to your villages. I want the word to be spread. I want people to know how they can use copyright, perhaps even develop other creative works based on traditional knowledge to bring back remuneration into the villages and the region. So don't always think you should give it away for free. There are reasons for protecting it because IP is what it's all about. Intellectual property and the knowledge economy in which we live is what it is all about today with regard to economic development. Respect copyright, encourage creativity. Thank you.
Questions and comments? Questions and comments from... So there's a lot of issues here. I'm sure there are some questions over here. I've got a couple of things I want to publish. So I do resources, education resources, but the reason I have it is because USP does not recognise that as a publication. And so if this is something that you are looking at, can that also be looked at, that if we do have a decent work which we've chosen to publish as an open education resource, that it still counts as decent research that has been done.
I think there we've really got to think about reinventing the wheel and you know, the policies of the university. So I think you're going to be split, and you're going to have to look at it both sides, because of course the university will want to protect some IP. Some IP will be happy to be published, but where you want credibility is it's a big mind change, isn't it? I don't see that happening. Like I don't know. What do you think? Yes.
So it's a question of them not being peer reviewed. Is that the question?
Well, even if they are peer reviewed, they're not.
If it's open source, it's not counted. So even if it's peer reviewed, no. I think there are obviously two big questions. One is the peer review, and the other one then is the open source. So we should absolutely look into that. I don't see any reason why most of it. The big hurdle is having your peers judge it as contribution to knowledge and well researched and well argued and useful and valid. And that's the key academic issue. And then after that, it's a question as the university moves more and more into open source anyway, for using its own, for doing its own activities, then we can certainly take that one. It's a very good point. Graham, did you want to comment? Somebody get the mic. It's right, just keep holding your hand. We'll hold up the other one.
Hello there. Just to address the issue of open source, there are very prestigious journals available, perhaps not in law, an area I'm not familiar with, but there are very prestigious journals which are open access and are peer reviewed and would give very credible publications. So I don't think there's in some disciplines that there is a restriction there. There is also a movement which should be mentioned that in my area, where if you're doing research under grant money, those awarding bodies are now paying you to publish in open source. And I could give you a list of some, and maybe it's a resource research I could give is to flag those publications which are open source.
It's more to do with books rather than journals. Journals not a problem, but books.
Sorry, I was saying the issue is more to do with books. Journals, there's plenty of open source journals that will be recognised and are in the journal ranking lists, but publishing a book, you're still pretty much tied with sort of your standard and as well your hard copy.
Well, I think that we have another little working group on this one. But at least we can always get two or three people to work out where we are, what's possible, and what's in the interest of advancing research here at this university and making it easier to do good research and have it published and have it recognised. So let's, ask you to talk after this and work out how we can get started on following up through the background and take it forward. So, another comment from anyone? Question? For Kathy? In the green shirt.
Thanks, Kathy. I was following up on Anita's comment really. There's two issues there. One is recognition, and I think she's talking much about open publication of educational resources rather than research outputs per se. I could be wrong. But I'm certainly talking about educational resources, teaching material, etc. And there's the issue of what credit comes to the person doing the publishing in terms of promotion and all that sort of stuff, and that's an area that perhaps Susan can make some future attention. And the other one is on the occasions I've tried to do something like that, I've been told, no, we need the fees. You can't just give this stuff away. Nobody's not paying their $10,000 a year should get their hands on this, and so that's an issue as well. that's the university in a sense protecting its intellectual property. But I haven't read that, but I'm assuming educational resources, teaching field producing, of course, you work at USB, automatically copyright by USB.
Well, I don't know. We'll have to look into that. That's part of your group work. What can I say? Thank you, but it is a very useful piece of work and it's very timely. So we look forward to getting a report on that so that we can make some decisions, take it through various governance groups at the university. So if there are no more questions, then we will move